get it? I know his name tag's flipped down, so I'm not sure if he's showing up at all. Either way, I chose John to show up first. Maybe he's not going to be here. Lame. Good for them.
I think we're waiting on John still. Oh, 2 more minutes? Okay. I do too. We never know.
Yeah, I'm glad that one of the council last night didn't have to come to us. Yeah, I would have thought so too, but for whatever reason, I'm glad it didn't. Are you?
It is now 5:35 on Thursday, April the 18th, 2024, which is actually 5 minutes past the scheduled time for this meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to take place. So I will now call the meeting to order. We're a little bit late to see if a board member, John Reese, was going to show up, but something must have come up for him. I would first of all like to introduce the staff. Closest to me is Julia Crane, Planning Director. On Julia's left is Joella Thomas, Planning Technician. And also present is Kathy Kennison, who will be recording things for us. The staff, or the board members that are present are Brian Higgins on my far right, Stephen Coe. On my far left is Garrett Craig. Next to Garrett is Shanna Adams. My name is Dave Wing, and I will be chairing the meeting tonight. The first matter that we have on our agenda is special use application 24-3. This matter, in a sense, was before us previously when we approved a special use permit for a short-term rental. Now, at this point, we're looking at another short-term rental. The building in question is a duplex. Last time we approved the lower section to be used as a short-term rental. This time they are looking for approval to also have a short-term rental in effect for the upper unit of the duplex. Does the staff have a report for us?
We do, Mr. Chairman. This is for special use 24-3. The applicants are proposing to amend special use 22-12, which was previously approved for short-term rental located in the residence basement or bottom unit of an existing duplex. Per section 1738-180, special uses allowed of the Butte-Silver Municipal Codes. The upper unit is currently the applicant's residence, and the applicant will be moving to a new location in Butte, and they would like to convert the upper unit of the two-story duplex to a short-term rental. Here's the location of the house. Staff findings. Lodging provided by a homeowner for compensation to recognize as a special use allowed in any residential zone district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with the other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to the public interest. The process provides for review of physical conditions at the location, the conduct and operation of the proposed use, and whether the combination of these factors will be compatible with the proposed site and surrounding area. To provide the board with information about the proposed special use, the applicant and planning staff have provided to the established 20 questions outlined herein. This is in the R3 or multifamily zone. To the east is a C2, to the west is also C2, to the north and south is C3, and down in this corner is a CM zone. The comprehensive plan, it is in the Uptown Edge place type. The location character of the property and surrounding buildings. Again, this property is in the multifamily residential zone and is surrounded mostly by single and multifamily housing. The comprehensive plan place type is within the Uptown Edge place type. The Uptown Edge place type serves as a transitional area immediately surrounding the Uptown core. It's intended for a mix of commercial-centric development interspersed with multifamily residential, but at a scale less dense than in the core itself. Some photos of the property. This would be looking south off of Gold Street, and this is looking directly west at the front of the property here. The rear of the property, and this is the alley with the detached garage. There is no proposed fencing, landscaping, or screening on the property. Proposed vehicle access, circulation, and parking. Vehicle access to and from the property is acceptable for the proposed use. The access is provided via South Colorado Street to the front of the residence. There's an alley to the west, and there's a detached two-car garage located to the rear and enough room for off-street parking to the north of the property on West Gold. Handicap access may be a concern as there are steps in the front of the residence to access the house as well as steps at the rear entrance. Staff does feel the applicant should state this in their listing for the rental. Some nuisances, parking, there is some off-street parking places. If the applicants are limited to occupancy levels dictated by the size of the house, there should not be any more of a parking issue than if the house were inhibited long-term. Wayfinding, staff does believe that the address should be clearly posted on the front of the residence and be visible from the street to mitigate the potential for guests to mistake a neighbor's home for rental units. Since there are multiple units in this house, the intended unit for short-term rentals should be clearly indicated. Staff would suggest that the owner does enforce rules through the online hosting program to regulate noise. Enforcing good renter conduct is especially important considering the location of an elementary school nearby. Excuse me, that should be a high school. Public health and safety. Butte-Silver Health Department has regulations related to providing rooms for rent and the occupancy levels of the building, which is determined by the building official, provides for public health and safety by limiting occupancy of the residence. This property does reside in the Central Butte Neighborhood Plan. Conformity of the proposed use with the neighborhood plan. The parcel in question is in the Central Butte Neighborhood Planning Area. This consists of 6 historic neighborhoods. They have a sustainable mix of residential, business, educational, and medical care uses. The area is the cornerstone of the National Historic Landmark District and gateway to Uptown Butte. The planning area's neighborhood have complete infrastructure, including sidewalks, streets, quality outdoor space. Neighborhood plans are required by state law to be consistent with the adopted growth policy. This plan proposes the residential and commercial be allowed as mixed use throughout Central Butte. This plan does conform to the growth policy, clear encouragement for retaining the historic character of Central Butte by using form-based or design code instead of traditional zoning. This proposal is in conformance with the future land use plan to encourage mixed-use development that includes non-residential uses such as small inns up to 12 units and bed and breakfast facilities. Based on the above information, staff's analysis of the review criteria, and any public opinion as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicant has presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from granting of a special use permit for the short-term rental. Section 1738-160, special or conditional use permits decision of the board requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of the receipt of the application and all requested information. The board shall within 60 days deny the application and give reason for the denial, or approve the application, and the zoning officer shall issue a zoning compliance permit with conditions specified. Thank you.
Thank you, Joella. Do any board members have any questions of the staff? Shiana?
I just had one quick question. How old is the neighborhood plan for that area?
Chairman Wing, Member Adams, I believe that the Greeley or the Central Butte Neighborhood Plan was developed at some point in the early to mid 2000s, but it precedes my joining of the planning department in 2011. But we can get a specific date for that from our records.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Any further questions by the board to the staff? Okay. The applicant, would you care to come forward, please? I believe there's a little icon you can press. There you go.
Didn't get it
Red
the
light
last two
comes
times.
on. Remember from the last time?
Yep. I was like, okay, now I saw these, they all turned red. I was like, if it turns red, I'm good.
There you go. That's the key.
Yep.
Uh,
I'm in the middle
yep.
of the move, too, so a little bit fatigued. Don't think of it as a lack of enthusiasm. And so this place, we started our first Airbnb at the downstairs, thinking it would go slowly, but we've had 6 days vacant in about 2 years. And, we're taking a little time off for just a breather, but then we had an opportunity to get into a new house at 15 South Excelsior. So new caretakers there. So we had that new baby moving, trying to get this place going. I originally thought, being ambitious, we could get it going by the beginning of May, but probably more like Memorial Day weekend, hopefully. Got a little bit of work to do on the outside still, concrete patching, and then undoing the 4-year-old's paint job of all the bedrooms. And then, I got the historical plaque finally on it as well, and I thought we were the 3rd owners, but it turns out we're the 4th owners in 124 years, or 134 years. So it was kind of crazy. Started it out and built in the 1800 by Ed Coach, who was like a sheriff's candidate, and then bought by the 25th mayor of Butte, James G. Cocking, in 1906, and converted to a coffee and tea concern from a miner's quarters. And then in 1922, his niece was about to be born, Maria, and we met her when we first bought the place. She was 99, and she was born downstairs in 1922, so they reconverted it into a duplex, and it's been like that ever since. And then it was when James G. Cocking, he passed in December 23rd, 1943, in our old bedroom, and still hear creaking sometimes. Like when people, they thought I was like home when I was working on the other house. Like, oh, Daniel just got home. Like, I'm not there. So there's footsteps upstairs. So, and then his wife passed in 1966 when Uriel Gonzalez bought it, and when he passed, we bought it. He passed in, was it 2000? It was 2020. So we've had it since then, and our thought with these things when we were first getting them is to, find existing properties that were in need of renovation, which this one definitely was. And I did most of the work myself, except for electric and plumbing, that I got electrocuted too many times doing that kind of stuff. And then the upstairs, we moved into the downstairs, and then I renovated the upstairs, then we moved to the upstairs and rented out the downstairs. And the plan ultimately was to have this unit, which will bring in approximately 60 to 70,000 per year, and for both up and down, which from a business standpoint, that's if like a really nice cap rate of 10%, or kind of 700 grand that we can leverage to get some sort of commercial loan, or to buy more like properties that are in need of renovation. But this would be our last Airbnb. Everything else will be going into long term. That's been the plan, and it's creeping along slowly, but it's coming up. And then, once again, just got a few more touch-ups on the outside. The original barn needs a little facelift on the roof. Part of it sagging. And that was the original barn. It was converted into a 2-car garage when cars came along. And the only treasure we found in the house was a picture of James G. Cocking. I think he was going off to, was it World War I or something? And there's pictures of in his uniform. I found it underneath a board, like a loose board in the downstairs. And then we found a brand new, with the tag still on, Berkeley Pit mine slicker. It's like, well, that's cool. It's like my dad has a bunch that are well used, but this was brand new. So I'm gonna hopefully get that framed. But yeah, it's a promising property. And and the other stuff I have to do is soundproof the downstairs. Because we saw the bills for the new house, which is like 3,000 square feet, and the downstairs unit in the winter has a higher electric power bill. Like, that's not right. So that's 1,000 square feet. And then the upstairs, 6-person capacity based on the 1,300 square foot. So that'll be it.
Okay. Well, this property has an interesting history.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. With regard to your application, the staff has recommended certain conditions of approval. And have you reviewed those conditions?
Yes.
Okay, and they're all acceptable?
Oh, all acceptable, yeah.
All acceptable to you? Okay. Do any board members have any questions of the applicant? None? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present who would care to speak in support of the application? Hearing nobody, I'll ask. Yes, Joelle?
Mr. Chairman, we did have one phone call that was in support of this application. I believe his name was Mike He. He had called yesterday.
Okay. And I do note for the record, there's a letter from Dawn Anderson who has no specific objection, but she would like to have all sides of the house removed for snow and ice on the sidewalks. And I'm sure that the applicants will pay attention to that. Were you aware of that, Don Anderson's letter?
I'm not aware of that.
You can get this copy.
Oh, the glacier.
Pardon?
I call that the glacier. It's on the north side of the house, and no matter how much I salt it and shovel it and plow it, it's impossible. From basically November on, it's not like completely covered in snow, but all the stuff that gets shoveled to the side, like into the street or up into the street, the house is tall, and it just does not melt. And I let everyone know that comes in, just beware of the glacier, which actually starts at just above the side gate. And it hasn't been a problem, but I gravel it, and the salt seems to do something sometimes, but it doesn't get enough sunlight till about right now. I think it actually melted last week in the street. It's annoying, but it's Butte.
Well, in any event, she doesn't object to the use of the property as a short-term rental, and it sounds like you're doing what you can to make sure that the sidewalks are clear. So,
Oh, yeah. I'm
just
out
calling that to your attention.
the plow in the morning. Like, have my friend Al, he comes up, I let him use my dad's copper mine for hunting, and he takes his side-by-side out and plows it, and then
Okay.
even that,
Well, that
you guys
sounds
got
good
some
then.
tips.
Thank you.
I'm open. Thank you.
Do any board members have any questions of the applicant? Okay, I've already done that, and is there anybody present that would care to speak against the application? There's nobody present. I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. And the first thing that we need to consider is if we want to hear this tonight as opposed to sometime in the next 60 days. Seems to me that this is something that we could decide tonight.
I'm fine with tonight.
Okay. All right. Do you have any thoughts or comments with regard to this particular application? Any board members?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I don't think I have any concerns with it. The first unit, they were already before us for a special use permit. I didn't have any, and haven't heard any concerns or objections from that one, so I wouldn't have any concerns with approving this one either.
Yeah. It does have a history in a sense, and there's been no problems during the last 2 years. Any further thoughts, or does anybody care to make a motion with regard to this particular application?
I'd make a motion that we approve special use permit 24-3.
Anybody care to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. All 5 votes are for the motion, so your application has been approved, and you will be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. So good luck on your project. Thank you. Okay, good luck with the new baby. Oh. Okay. Just so you know, it's a concern of a neighbor. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. You too. The next matter on our agenda is variance application 2312. And I see that the applicant is present. And does the staff have a report with regard to this also?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not necessarily a report. We have, it's the presentation that we've done before, but there are a couple changes that the applicant has sent in. So I was just going to show a couple slides from the previous and then the changes that the individuals would like to make.
Sounds good.
Okay. So here's the property on Continental and Fairway. This is the previous, the applicant's previous submittal. They wanted to put the gate here. I don't know how well you can see it. A gate would be here, and then the fence would come all the way down to the end of this building. Since then, the applicants, here's a better picture. So here's the gate. There's a driveway here, which we were also concerned about the vision clearance. They wanted to put a 10-foot gate here, and then this would be 108 feet long. The applicants have decided to change that proposal. I am going to show that vision clearance again, just for individuals that maybe weren't here. Here's a driveway here, and then there was a driveway here, which was part of the concern with the fence being in this area here. And another preview there. So the applicants have now proposed to take this section that's crossed out in black out, along with this gate and this area that adjoins the property to the north. And this fence would be 78 feet long as opposed to the 108 feet long. The fence height would still, they're still proposing the 6-foot fence height. Again, they've just circled here. This area would be the place that they would be eliminating the fence from. And again, an overview with the two driveways together. This gate here would be eliminated from their plans. Okay. And then here is the proposal of the new fence that they would like to install. Height is staying the same at 6 feet. And here's some other, this is obviously not their property, but it's just the design that they'd like to use. And there's a better vision. And that's everything.
Okay. Any board members have any questions of the staff? Okay. Could the applicant come forward and address these changes? You were here before. Also identify yourself by giving your name and address, please.
There we go. Thanks. I'm David Klein, and my address is where those fence picks are from. 25 High Place Road, off of Toll Mountain Road, above Whitehall. Okay. Really above Whitehall and Butte. And we based partly on the feedback from the last hearing we were at. We hoped that you would like this a lot better. It's a beautiful fence. The reason we didn't ever consider that in the beginning, it's more than twice the cost. But then we worked it out to install it in-house. We've got a contractor, one of the parishioners, and me and 2 other guys. We think we can get it done in 3 or 4 Sundays. Construction is it's in concrete footings, pressure treated 4x4s, triple reinforced with 2x4s, heavy duty wire panels. And anyway, we're actually excited about it now because it's beautiful. The other thing about removing the extra 50 feet, I've got some printouts. I appreciate, Joella, you getting that in with the short notice. I apologize for that. It occurred to me Tuesday night that if we removed that extra fencing area and kept that's blocked off, it's got wheel stops there, It will never be for vehicular access. The idea with the gate was to have 8 foot and 2 feet for the pedestrian, the 8 foot locked shut. Only on a rare occasion, if we had some delivery we had to take, or if logistically we could open up and use it. It will never be used for vehicular access. It'd be just fine if that was a condition of a variance if we were to get it. We've got children back and forth from the church and the parish hall and people walking there. It's not designed for vehicular access. So we intend to leave the wheel stops in place that have always been there. We've never used it for that. And so when I submitted that, we didn't realize that when I submitted my scale drawing, that opened up unnecessarily a can of worms. So I wanted to clear that up. It's never has been and never will be for vehicular access, which I think, as I understand it, eliminates the line of sight problem from that one area. The other thing I want to address is, well, let's see, those are the major changes. 78 foot, yeah, I think that does it for the changes. One point about the safety issue I want to address, and I realize that people make a lot of claims when they want a variance. But I say this not just as a parishioner and really as an uncle to these kids, but from my years in the security industry and as a certified instructor in self-defense and threat mitigation. With children especially, perimeter protection is an essential component of that. 4 feet's about right here on me, and I can reach down and snatch a child easy and be gone. 6 feet's, up here on my forehead. I can't do that. I got to climb a fence, scale down the other side, and with the cameras and the time involved, and it's really implausible. So it is a real issue, and that's why it'd be cheaper for us to do the 4 fence. And I think Susan will elaborate more on the safety issue also. Really, that's the whole thing. There's no. There is one other thing. It's not as grave an issue, but much more likely. With the kids playing catch and throwing a ball, you're going to have much less likely balls going out in the street. So that's another potential, because not that we would have kids just running out there to get their balls, but, it's another thing that mitigates that possibility. That pretty much covers it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'll now check and see if any board members have any questions they'd like to address to you with regard to this application. Any questions? Thank you. Now I understand Susan Johnson is going to speak with regard to this.
Thanks.
And if you could just identify yourself for the record.
Susan Johnson, Principal, Hillcrest Elementary. My personal address is 3440 Wharton Street. School address 3000 Continental. I'm here today to support the 6-foot fence. I'm sure many of you have heard of situations at school where we have to relocate kids because of emergencies. The church is one of our reunification sites. They are so helpful. They have security cameras. They have locked areas in which we can keep kids safe while waiting for parents to come and pick up their children. So our plan with the fence is that, as you can imagine, tensions are high when we have an emergency. And parents are a little excited, I would say more than a little excited actually, when they come to pick up their child and find them there at our reunification site. So I'm going to step back a minute. So what a reunification site means is if there's an accident at the school and we have to evacuate for whatever the reason, we will probably be walking to the Serbian church. We will have 420 kids with us, and we will be inside that the building plus the church area. So when parents come to pick up their children, they will drive by the front of the facility. They will check their child out. But one of our procedures in reunification is that when we have the actual reunification with the parent, we do it in a separate location. So we will ask parents to drive around to the other side, which is where the fence is located, and the gate, and have children released out the back door. And we personally walk them to the fence and have them load into their parent's car, just to make sure everyone is safe and they have been reunified with their parent. Where the 6-foot fence comes in is sometimes there's so much excitement going on with parents who are so excited to reunify with their parents that they can't always wait for our procedures. Our procedures take a long time. To reunify 420 kids with their parents could be hours. So when we use that facility and we are looking at the fence, we are actually looking at keeping kids safe inside. Parents have been known in other situations to get very upset, and we have to keep things very structured. The fence will help us with crowd control. One of the things that would probably happen at that fence is we would have a police officer there, and as they're being reunited, we would have that person there for crowd control. So for safety for that 6-foot fence versus the 4-foot fence, it's going to keep more people away from the building at the time and give us more structure and keep kids safe, and keep our procedures in a more manageable area. As the parents are driving around to the other side, the kids would be released there with that police officer and a staff member. So that's why, Hillcrest School, the Butte School District is in favor of the 6-foot fence, is that we can keep our procedures a little more contained and safer for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. So you plan to have a police officer present? Is that part of your plan?
Yes, that's always part of the plan for crowd control. Usually on both sides, there's usually one at the entrance, because that's also another time when things can get a little bit out of hand. So that would be on the front side of the building. And then on the back side of the building, we would also have a police officer there. I don't know. We've all been in crowds, and we know how sometimes things can get a little bit unstructured. So that is our plan, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Police presence would be there. We would have, areas would be blockaded so that the line of traffic would be very organized through there. We've already collaborated with police and fire and ambulance for these procedures. This plan from 2021 is a well-oiled machine. Last year, Margaret Leary ran their plan, which is actually the district plan at the mall. And we had everybody on board with the situation that might happen and for all the procedures. We have the mall as one of our places also for unification, but because the Serbian church is so close to Hillcrest, if we can't wait for buses to get out, we will probably be walking.
Okay.
So,
I'll see if any board members have any questions
sure.
with regard.
Okay.
Send your way. Any thoughts, questions?
Mr.
Doesn't
Chair,
appear. Yeah.
I have
go,
a question.
Brian.
Are there any specific space or building requirements that you have to follow for reunifications?
So we have not looked into, we have 2 buildings that we can use here, but we have not we've had police come with us, fire, to look at would this be an appropriate place, but I don't know if you're asking about other things.
I was just trying to get at, is there something in code for reunifications that stipulates a 6-foot fence versus a 4-foot fence?
Oh, gotcha, no. Mm-mm. There's nothing that stipulates, but looking at from the crowd control issue, 4-foot fence is easy to jump. A 6-foot fence is going to deter people. If we get a crowd mentality, we're going to have more protection. Even with the police officer that's there, you just never know. So we would rather be safe than sorry.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time.
You bet. And obviously, there isn't anybody present to speak either for or against, but for the record, I will ask if there's anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application. And hearing nobody, I'll ask if there's anybody present that would care to speak against this application. And again, hearing nobody, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. Any thoughts or comments with regard to this particular application from board?
Mr. Chair? I guess the thoughts in my mind are I kind of struggle with this one. I get the child safety component of having a 6-foot fence versus a 4-foot fence. But I also look at it in terms of there's a neighbor right next door, and if he wants to build a 6-foot fence in his front yard, I don't know that he can do that, right? So, I mean, the precedent set there, and to be consistent with zoning and ordinance rules, it's a tough one in my mind. So I'm open to hearing what everybody else has to say.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Any
Mr.
further? Yes,
Yeah,
Garrett.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same spot Mr. Higgins is. You know, I think there's substantial justification on why they need a 6-foot fence for safety reasons. And, you know, I totally understand and support that, but you know, it's a variance from the zoning requirements, and like all these, I worry about the precedent.
Mhm.
So I'm a little bit torn on this one as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Stephen.
I guess I'm leaning the other direction. You know, I think the precedence is less likely to be set since we're looking at a school and school safety issue and child safety issue in this case, versus just somebody wanting to put up a fence. And, you know, as far as visually, the fence that they've suggested putting up, I mean, you can obviously see right through that, so it's not going to be a visual, you know, deterrent to anybody driving by or looking at anything. You almost
But that we don't have anybody here to oppose this particular application. Has there been anything from the staff? Any comments? No letters, phone calls? Okay. There's nobody present. Okay. Any further thoughts? I guess we're now ready for a motion if anybody cares to make one.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve variance 2312.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we can now vote.
Just a point of order, is it not variance 24-2?
It's actually 2312 because,
I don't know, my voting sheet says 20. Okay.
was it 2312 back when it originally came before us? It is 24-2. Was it 2312 originally?
We're okay. I know, me too.
So we're all modifying our ballots to read 24, variance 24, 5 zeros and a 2.
Is that correct?
Would that be correct?
So yes, so the ballot should reflect the correct variance number. It says variance 2312. The agenda, however, has 24-2, and that should be 2312.
Okay, so I've already modified my ballot, so I'll modify it once again. 23, 4 zeros and a 2, 12. 4 zeros, 1, 2, okay. So all our ballots should read variance 23-000012. There are 3 votes for the motion and 2 votes against the motion. So that means that your application has failed. It has not been approved. And, pardon? Yeah, and you need 4 votes. You need 4 votes if there's only 4 of us present, or 4 votes if there's 5, 6, or 7. I don't believe so. I think you have to wait a longer period of time, 6 months. No,
I think we could really satisfy the concern of the neighbors. I know we have one neighbor that really likes the idea because he has little balls going in the street and all that sort of thing.
uh-huh.
I wish I'd pressed that.
Well, nobody showed up to oppose it, so we can assume that people were in favor of it, which we did, but still, it's contrary to the specific provisions in the zoning code. With regard to this particular vote, though, you can appeal our decision to district court by filing a petition, which would have to be filed within 30 days, with the first day of the 30-day period being tomorrow, Friday, the 19th. And otherwise, you can build a 4-foot fence, or you can come back before the board in 6 months.
There's no way to circumvent the 6-month wait.
No, that's a specific requirement in the,
And the other option is a litigation wait
yes, it is.
as well.
Okay, well, thank you. Sure.
Is the 4 vote, no matter how many are present, is it 4? Well, I guess if you have,
We have 5, yeah.
there's 7 total board members. Right, 4 approvals, so it's not, it's still a majority of 7. So having everybody here would be helpful if we wait and come back.
It would be helpful, perhaps. It's hard to say.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any further matters to consider? Nothing? Okay, thank you. Any developments on the Maverick Drive-In Theater?
In terms of updates on Maverick, we have responded to the petition and sent the record to District Court Judge Kurt Kruger
Okay,
via our legal team in the County Attorney's Office, Deputy Attorney Peterson. We do not intend to appeal the request for a stay. We're just going to proceed and stay in construction, so we're going to proceed with allowing this to play out outside of the administrative capacity of staff. And we are preparing also the package of information pertaining to a case that preceded my tenure related to a garage. And preparing the materials from the board to send to district court for that case as well.
Okay, thank you, Julia.
Yeah, no problem. And then we've been seeing quite a number of applications. We will have a meeting in May and likely also in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're busy in May?
Three cases we'll be bringing before you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting is adjourned.